Iron Crown has just risen up to OU after a long period of being considered among the worst Paradox Pokemon in the game. When the DLC first released, this all-new future form of Coballion was laughed at. Iron Boulder, the future form of Tachyon, stole the show as the seemingly superior new future Paradox form, with its high speed and powerful signature move Mighty Cleave. But it turns out that slow and steady wins the race. Iron Crown has slowly but surely overtaken Iron Boulder in usage and viability. Why were we so wrong about Iron Crown? And what has led to this significant rise? Let's take a look. But first, an update. It has recently come to light, thanks to investigative journalist Flygon HG, that the supposed horse Pokemon Spectria doesn't even learn the move High Horsepower. The very definition of what it means to be a horse is bursting apart at the seams. With Rhydon's horse status recently being granted, Magcargo learning High Horsepower, and even Snorlax having a claim, while Spectria has been ousted. Horse society is in complete disarray. Subscribe to the channel so that we can set clearly defined horse criteria and avoid all of these legal loopholes and absurdities once and for all. Thank you. It makes sense that in the early metagame when the DLC was first released, that Iron Boulder would be more popular than Iron Crown. Iron Boulder is more straightforward to use, and a much more offensive Pokemon. With the speed boost from a booster energy consumption, Iron Boulder can achieve a ridiculous speed stat, even outrunning an enemy Iron Valiant that has also consumed a booster energy. Mighty Cleave is also a rare, accurate, and powerful rock-type physical attack with the fantastic effect of bypassing protection. But eventually, Iron Boulder's initial surge of viability would come to a halt, and his usage would start bouldering downhill very quickly. Landorus Therian rose back up as a popular choice, who matches up extremely well into Iron Boulder. Dark Weakness is a big detriment as a late game cleaner because of your vulnerability to King Gambit Sucker Punch, and it kinda seemed hard to justify using Iron Boulder over the far superior Iron Valiant, who, while slower, has way better typing and a more vast set of offensive tools, with wider coverage and the ability to threaten more things. And while Iron Crown was overlooked at first, people returned to the idea of using this Pokemon and exploring the unique benefits it may provide. A Steel Psychic typing seems a little bit underwhelming in this metagame where powerful ground types, ghost and dark types are reigning supreme at the moment. And Iron Crown's signature move Tachyon Cutter didn't seem that useful at first. A simple steel type special attack with 50 power that hits twice. But this would actually end up being one of the most useful tools in Iron Crown's toolkit. Because Tachyon Cutter is a multi-hit move, this is actually a great option against popular hyper-offense leads. Rabombi is a common sticky web setter who uses the security of Focus Sash to survive any incoming hit and guarantee its ability to set hazards on the field. After setting hazards and being brought down to 1 HP, it can do one more useful thing, like getting a Moonblast out there, using Stun Spore, but Tachyon Cutter is able to bypass the Focus Sash because of its 2 hits. And thanks to super effective damage, it does well enough to 2-hit KO this Rabombi. Tachyon Cutter is also very effective against the popular hyper-offense lead Glimmora. Glimmora is a fantastic Pokemon in Generation 9 OU with the ability Toxic Debris. If Glimmora is hit by a physical attack of any kind, it will create a layer of toxic spikes on the field. Glimmora also has access to Stealth Rock, Spikes, and Mortal Spin to remove enemy hazards, making it an incredible hazard-setting aggressive opener. But once again, that multi-hit effect of Tachyon Cutter is able to bypass Glimmora's Focus Sash, hit it for super effective damage, and it doesn't even activate Toxic Debris because Tachyon Cutter is a special attack. Not only is Iron Crown the perfect anti-lead to these two popular hyper-offense openers, it also matches up well against another popular hyper-offense lead strategy, the Alolan Ninetales. With Alolan Ninetales, you can create snow on the field and activate Aurora Veil, which shields your team from incoming damage, which can be a great way to enable boost sweepers, those crucial free turns they need to set up their boosts. But Alolan Ninetales is extremely vulnerable to the ×4 super effective damage from Tachyon Cutter, punishing that Ice Fairy type combination. So Iron Crown does a lot to help out against hyper offense teams, preventing them from getting too much of an early advantage. But it has more uses beyond that too. Iron Crown has a pretty solid stat distribution across the board, and with an Assault Vest equipped, it can be a pretty nice bulky pivot. Iron Crown has access to the ever crucial Volt Switch, allowing it to deal pretty significant damage off the back of a its base 122 special attack and pivot out for whatever teammate you want. Iron Crown can be a pretty good switch in against a lot of popular special attackers right now, like Raging Bolt, Primarina, Curum, and it generally matches up well into any fairy type, like Clefable or Hatterene. And Iron Crown can kind of turn defense into offense, applying significant pressure to the enemy with its high special attack, the solid steel type stab damage of Tachyon Cutter, and even stab Future Sight for some wall breaking potential. Psychic Noise is another good option, a new psychic type special attack that prevents the enemy from healing for 2 turns. Overall, all these qualities add up to a pretty worthwhile Pokemon slot for certain teams. This is a bulky pivot that applies a bit of offensive pressure and improves your matchup against those pesky hyper offense leads that can really snowball to victory quickly. Weaknesses to Ground, Dark, and Ghost are unfortunate, but there are enough things that you can switch in against and punish that Iron Crown feels very useful in most games. An Assault Vest Iron Crown set like this was used in one of Gen 9 OU's sample teams. In the following team built by the player Mimikyu Stardust. This team is using the powerful wall breaker of Choice Band Dragapult, and Hisui and Samurott also represents a lot of offensive pressure and the ability to make spikes while dealing damage at the same time with Ceaseless Edge. Iron Crown is a great teammate for Pokemon like this, with its ability to turn defense into offense, come in against certain key enemies, Volt Switch out, which deals a lot of damage, especially when this set is special attack invested, and gets more threats in to keep the pressure up. If you're able to get some layers of spikes on the field on top of this, you're just going to be overwhelming the opponent at all times when even your defensive pivots are applying significant pressure and dealing damage. It's also fantastic that you have that Tachyon Cutter for the hyper offense matchups so that you don't let them get the ball rolling too quickly and you stay in control of the pace. Another way you can go with Iron Crown is to use a weakness policy sweeper set. Iron Crown has access to Calm Mind, Agility, and Stored Power. Stored Power does more damage for every boost that you have, so if you're able to boost speed, special attack, special defense, and rack up boosts from receiving an incoming super effective hit, which procs weakness policy, Iron Crown can be a pretty monstrous win condition in an endgame. If you're able to eliminate King Gambit, a set with Stored Power and Tachyon Cutter, along with Calm Mind and Agility, can be one of the scariest possible offensive threats to face. A Probopass team that I covered in a previous video was built around this concept, with Probopass being a magnet pull trapper that can eliminate King Gambit, allowing this Iron Crown set to wreak havoc. Overall, I have to say that I like Iron Crown, and I apologize for being so harsh to it at first. This initially underwhelming seeming Pokemon has naturally risen up to fill very important gaps in the metagame. In a world of increasing power creep, Iron Crown has risen up to OU in a very honest way. Not because of overwhelming tools or absurd stats, but because it just so happens to provide enough value in a single slot to be worth using. It was difficult to see that at first, but now Iron Crown has earned its rightful place in the overused format. And I think it's a good sign that Iron Boulder has subsequently fallen off, the more one-dimensional, offensively oriented Pokemon. What do you think of Iron Crown's rise? Do you think this will last? And what would you like me to talk about next? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.